What's up YouTube? Jack Armstrong, Jack Daddy Customs coming at you today with another DIY project. And today I'm going to show you how you can build this awesome turtle trap for cheap and at home with just some PVC, stuff you get at Home Depot, zip ties. You can make it happen. But what I know is that if you're searching for a homemade turtle trap, you're probably a DIY guy, and you probably got a pond, which means you're probably some type of an outdoorsman. And if you're an outdoorsman, you need to go check out this book right here. So I recently wrote this book. It's called Mystery in the Marsh. It's a fiction book, and it actually mentions the very pond where I've got the original turtle trap. And I think you would enjoy this book. It's designed more for like kids getting into the outdoors and things like that, but it teaches some positive character traits, and it's just a good outdoor story. Go pick it up. Search for it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Mystery in the Marsh by Jack Armstrong. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I built a turtle trap out of aluminum, and I welded it all together, and that thing works phenomenal. So I'll put a link in the description for that as well. You can go click on that video, go watch it. So if you want more of a like engineered, fancy, awesome, long-lasting, if you want an awesome turtle trap, go watch that video. But this is almost as awesome, and anybody can do it. So I had a buddy that reached out to me. He said, you need to make a turtle trap that somebody like me can build. I can't weld, I don't have all those tools that you got, so make something simple. So this is what we came up with. So this video is actually sponsored by him, and he said, look, I'll buy the stuff, you make a video of it, give me the trap. So this is going to his home and his pond, and it's going to catch a bunch of turtles. But they work, like the design is the same as my other one, and I have caught hundreds of turtles in the past 2 years, and I don't know where they come from. Like, we always wonder that. We'll go check it maybe once a week, and there's always like 3 or 4 turtles, sometimes even as many as like 10 in it at one time. Anyways, they're in there and it works. So this is the exact same design, but it's just using things that most people can do themselves. The way it works is that it floats in the water about halfway to the buoy or the bumper, and so this is sitting down in the water maybe 2 or 3 inches, and the turtle can swim up to it, and then it walks up this ramp just like this, and then it gets up here to sit in the sun. Now sometimes it'll sit on this edge for a little bit without it flipping over, but it'll get more comfortable, and over time it'll get closer to the edge, and when it gets closer to the edge, it just drops them in there. They slide down in the trap, this comes back like that, so that next turtle can do the same thing. Both sides work the same, and then the turtle just sits down in the basket until you can go get it. So if you think you got a few turtles in your pond, I promise you, you got a bunch of turtles in your pond. And there's no way that like singular methods will ever keep them at bay. You got to have something that's out there all the time working on your behalf to get these turtles. So just so you know, like, these work. You need to build one of these. So follow along. You can do this, I promise. First thing we're going to do is show you what all you need. So obviously, you're going to need some PVC pipe. You're going to need some bumpers that's going to make this thing float. You'll need something to wrap it with. You can use like some wire or like hardware cloth, something like that. But we're using this garden fence. It's really strong, thick plastic, and turtles can't get out of it. It works good. You're going to need a bunch of connections. Specifically, you're going to need 16 90s and 4 T's. Whole bunch of zip ties. This right here is a piece that we're going to use for our flappers. You got to have something that's flat. You can make it out of wood if you want to. Wood will be just fine, but you've got to have something flat that you can then bend to make a 40, or not a 45, but just an angle. Okay, we'll show you, but something that's flat. And again, like if you use wood, you could cut it in half and screw it onto a piece of like metal that you bend to make it your angle. But we've got to have an angle. Let's see, you're going to need some bolts to mount your bumpers to your PVC frame. I don't know if I've already said zip ties, a bunch of zip ties to put all this stuff together. And then the tools you'll need will be like a tape measure, scissors, something to cut your pipe with, something to drill a few holes with, and then of course some pipe glue. So this should be everything we need, minus a little bit of sand to weigh this thing down, because some PVC
floats, and depends on like how it was made, what materials it was made. I know it's plastic or whatever, but sometimes it has gases in there and it'll float. Especially if we're going to seal it up, it's going to have air trap, which is buoyant. So on one or on two of the sides, we're going to fill them with sand. So you need to get some kind of sand, gravel, something you can put in the pipes to give it some weight. Of course, that's what's going to make it float, is our bumpers, but we want to make sure that we got it weighted down to where it sits at the right height in our water. All right, here are our plans for our turtle trap. There's the materials again, if you needed to see what all you needed specifically. But that's like side view without the flappers. That's kind of what the flappers will look like with the side view. Of course, that's the bumper right there, and then the flappers will be on top. First thing we're going to do is work on building all of these frames right here.
We're going to start by cutting our pipes, the tall pieces, and they're all going to be the same. So we've got 24-inch garden fence, so we want to make sure that it hits the top and the bottom rail. So taking into account our 90s, we're going to cut it at 22.5 inches long, all of these, and we're going to need, we're going to need 8 of them. So we're going to need 8 at 22.5 inches long. The next pieces we're going to cut are going to be the width of these for the most part. So our edge, we're going to make that to carry all the pieces that we need this thing to carry. The sides are just going to be like to put the net on to keep the turtles in. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this short enough where it'll fit in between the pieces where the bolt's going to come through. That makes sense. It'll make sense in a minute. So just think you're holding your total width, take these, and then minus whatever the width of 2 of your pipes are. So if you're using 1 inch, it's going to be a little bit bigger than 1 3/4. This is basically like 1 inch OD, pretty much. So we're going to take 2 inches away. We're going to cut our 17 3/4, and that will give our outside edges, the bolts, to go right through these holes. 17 3/4, we're going to cut 4 of them. These are going to be just for the sides. And then the ends where our flapper is going to sit and the ends where our bolts are going to come through, we're going to cut those the same as our uprights, so we just got perfect squares. But these ends, they have to match your bumpers. So make sure you measure that out. We're going to start with the sides that's just going to be square and filled with sand. The other two are going to be a little bit more tricky because we've got to put some T's in there. I'll show you that in a minute. But this side, we're just going to make a complete square. So you got 2 long ones, 2 short ones, 2 long ones, 2 short ones, 2 sides to each end of the square, and then your 90s. It's good if you put like a 90 on, like one side first, glue it up, and then do the other one and lay it down flat so you know you've got them, going in the same direction. If you just put 2 90s and eyeball it, you're going to have it all, cattywampers. So it's best if you put a 90 on one side, put the short piece on a 90, and then put the 90 on and lay it down flat so you know you got it right. And then we'll fill it with sand before we glue it up. Alright, so we got 2 flat pieces that look identical. These are our side pieces. So what we're going to do now is go and fill these up with sand and then put the other ends on there. And it's super simple. You just 2 90s and pop it right down on there. So fill it with sand, put them in. Alright, we've got our first squares built with our sand filled in them. They're pretty heavy. I don't know how much they weigh, but they'll weigh enough to offset whatever buoyancy we get from the rest of it. So now what we want to do is build the other ends, the other parts of the square. And then we're just going to zip tie all these things together to make one big square. So what we're going to take is the rest of our pieces of pipe that we cut, which are 22.5 inches long. We'll take the rest of our 90s, and we're just going to make 2 more squares. It's going to be 24 by 24 roughly, all the way around. So once you get your square built, what you need to do is decide which side you want to be the top. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to take these T's right here, and we're going to put 1 on each side. So 1 here, 1 here. We're going to cut this top piece wherever we want our T. But what this is going to face straight back. So you're going to be open. We're not going to put a stop in there. So you're going to face straight back. And that's going to be the stop for our flapper. If you don't have something to stop it, it's just going to go, all the way down in the water. So we want our flapper to sit level and have a stop. And if it doesn't want to stop, we can put a piece of PVC in this T and bring it out a little bit further to make it stop a little bit better. But basically you want just enough so that it stops when the turtle climbs up and makes the peak, it'll flap them down in there. Alright? But it's got to have something to stop it, or they'll never be able to climb up. It'll just keep flapping all the way down flat. They'll never be able to do it. The next thing we're going to do is drill holes into this. And it's got to go from the inside, so make sure you don't go that way, because we've got it measured to where our bolts are going to go through here and catch our buoys. So what we've done is we've come down 4 inches from the inside of the top down. That's where we're going to put our bolt in. And just we're using 5/16 carriage bolts, and we're going to bolt it onto here, and then we've got a big fender washer and a lock nut to put on the edge to keep the bumper open. But you want your bolt to be as straight as possible coming out. All right, with your holes drilled, went ahead and took our bolt back out. It's going to be easier to wrap our net, wire, whatever you're going to use for your encagement. It's going to be easier to wrap it without having these bolts sticking out. So we'll put the bolts back in from the inside after we put our net on. But we got all our holes drilled. We got about 4 down each side. And what we're going to do is, and we also got a couple in the bottom. All right, so the air will be able to come out, water will fill it. That'll help us have at least a neutral, if not negative buoyancy. So we're going to take where we drill these holes, and we're going to attach our sand filled sides, just like this. And what we do is we want to make a square all the way around. And remember, this has to go inside of each of these ends, because that's how we've measured for our buoy. So let's go ahead and put these zip ties in there. So we got our square, you can see from the top, our stops are in the right orientation. What we're fixing to do now is wrap this thing, and we're going to wrap it with that plastic garden fence around the edge. And this is the piece I'm going to use for the bottom. Like I said, it's just like a piece of fence, welded wire, whatever. I think it's 4x2 openings, and I'm hoping, like, you know, it'll just maybe help hold it a little more square. So I've got it cut to the right measurement, and which this thing's pretty solid once I got everything zip tied up real good. It'd probably be just fine using plastic if that's what you wanted to use. I'm going to zip tie this onto the bottom, and I'm going to catch the net or the garden fence with my zip ties, so that all the bottom, all the sides will be done. All right, that did help a lot, but like I said, I think you could do it with just the plastic. It'll be just fine. But it's good and solid, you know, as a square. So before we do the flap, we're going to go ahead and put these bumpers on the side. So we'll put our bolts through there like we had it a while ago. Slide it on your bolts. You need some big fender washers like this on each side, and then you could use a regular nut, but I think a lock nut would be way better. So that's what we got. We got some lock nuts. Tighten them up. Do this on both sides. Have it whooped, minus the flaps. All right, this is the last part that we got to do. This is the flapper part. So you don't have to have it, you know, all the way over halfway. It can just be over just enough, as long as it'll flap once the turtle gets over there. That's the key. So you got to make sure you got enough weight up here and not enough back here. But you also got to make sure you got enough back here that it sits down in the water how you need it to. So obviously a turtle's not going to be able to get up there like this. You can't just have it like this and they just crawl up endlessly. That's not how it works. You've got to have a bend in it. So we're going to, I got a metal brake, which is how I'm going to bend mine, but you could take this, figure out where you want it, put it like up against a wall or a straight edge or a corner, and bend it around the corner however much you need to get a bend out of it. I'm guessing it's probably going to be about 45 degrees. I'll show you what it ends up being in a minute. It might be like 30 degrees or something, but anyways, you'll see how much you need. Basically what you need is this piece to be down in the water so the turtle can swim up to it and start climbing up. turtles, pond turtles, they always like to be like up on a log or something to sun. So what we'll do is we'll probably drill a few holes in this to get their toes and claws something to start on. And like I said, this has grooves and ridges already. It's like a wood pattern stainless. It might be hard to see on the video. But we'll drill a few holes in the bottom anyway, because that also helps it flip up through the water, because this is going to be down in the water. That's how it works. And yeah, so let's go get this bent. However you want to bend it works out. And then we'll put it on here, drill some holes, and what we'll do is we'll use our zip ties like a hinge. So we'll drill holes through on each side of our pipe, and then we'll zip tie them loosely onto our pipe, and that'll be our hinge, all right? So zip ties for the win today. This is it. So now all we gotta do is go put it in the pond, make sure it floats how we want it to float. I mean, this is stuff that you can just source and don't have to have any real talent or tools to be able to do it. And you can keep your turtles out of your pond. Go turn them loose somewhere a ways away so you ain't gotta worry about coming back. Because I think they'll be smart enough not to get in it again. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure about that. Hope this helped. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Jack Armstrong with Jack Daddy Customs.